Good morning and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you live and exclusive on Spectrum Television, all the way from the beautiful hills of Ibiakure in Godtun State, Akwa Ibom. My name is Mfono Bongitina. Quite excited to be back on your screens and with lots of exciting stories as well. The aftermath of the AFCON has finally seen lots of African teams boost up the FIFA rankings. In time past, some would say maybe the AFCON not really important, but I think after you've seen the rankings for January 2026, you would have a different option about that. We'll also go to the Australian Open, where lots of superstars are beginning to get things off. Likes of Novak Djokovic finally got his 100th Australian Open win. Talking about Madison Keys, defending champion as well, getting the victory of a wild card. We also talk about different superstars trying to get the numbers and, continue the dominance in 2026. Likes of Sebastian Baez, who is yet to lose a game in 2026. He continued that yesterday as he got the victory over his opponent. We'll talk about these and many more. Remember, you can follow us on all social media handles. Go to Facebook at Spectrum TV Live. Go to X, follow me on Twitter. Go to TikTok as well. And you do all to connect with us on an even closer level. You can also follow me on Facebook at Mfonobong Itina. We'll take just a quick breather. When we're back, it's going to be sport wrap-up. Stick around. Now we'll start with tennis stories, and we'll also start from that the Aussie Open, where Novak Djokovic delivered a serving masterclass as he registered his 100th victory at the Australian Open with a straight set win over Spain's Pedro Martinez. The world number 4, who is bidding for a standalone record 25th Grand Slam singles title, only dropped 5 points out of 57 on serve across a 2-hour exhibition of serving excellence. The 38-year-old produced 8 holds to love and only lost 1 point in each of the second and third sets, and won 93% of points behind his first serve, all while maintaining a first serve percentage of 77%. The 10-time champion fittingly closed out the win with his 14th ace of the night, triumphing 6-3, 6-2, 6-2. Now to the women's category, where Madison Keys was quite nervous about starting our Australian Open title defense. Facing an unknown opponent only added to the tension for the lady. The 30-year-old American had a fairy tale run in Melbourne 12 months ago, culminating in her lifting the first Grand Slam trophy of her career. However, she made an edgy start to her title defense today, losing the first 4 games to Grand Slam debutant Alexandra Olinkova. Keeves said afterwards she had struggled to find footage of her opponent to help her prepare, with Olinkova's defensive playstyle not matching up well with her big hitting game. But the 9th seed eventually settled down to clinch a 7-6, 6-1 victory over the Ukrainian. Now to basketball, where Golden State Warriors wing Jimmy Butler suffered a season-ending torn right ACL in Monday's night's 135-112 win over the Miami Heat, effectively throwing the future direction of the franchise into question. Butler's injury came at the 7-minute and 41-second mark of the third quarter. He leaped to grab an entry pass in the middle of the paint and collided with Heat's guard Davion Mitchell, and his right knee appeared to twist on the landing, sending him sprawling to the court in agony. Butler remained down for a couple of minutes as his teammates surrounded him in a stone chase center. He eventually was pulled to his feet and slowly helped to the locker room. Unable to put weight on his right leg, well, he laughed with nearby officials that he was owed 2 free throws. Butler left the arena to get an MRI scan on his right knee, which confirmed the ACL tear. The injury comes as the Soldier Warriors have won 12 of their past 16 games, beginning a climb back up the standings, due in part to Butler's recent performance. Now to football, where yesterday in the English Premier League, substitute Charalampos Kustulas scored a stoning bicycle kick in added time as Brighton salvaged a 1-0 draw with a controversial Premier League clash with Bournemouth. The 18-year-old Greece international leveled in style by the 90th minute by acrobatically dispatching only his second goal in English football into the left corner, following hand Paul Van Heck knocks down. Bournemouth had looked set to snatch a contentious victory at the Amex Stadium, having led since Marcus Tavinia's hotly disputed 32nd minute penalty. But the away side, playing in the top flight for the very first time since selling 10-goal top scorer Antoine Semenyo to Manchester City for 62.5 million euros, remained 3 points below 12th place Brighton following the late drama. Now to ranking reports, where the Super Eagles of Nigeria have climbed to 26th in the latest FIFA Men's World Rankings, their highest position in 16 years, following a strong run at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Host Morocco also broke into the top 10 for the first time since 1998, reflecting the significant impact of the tournament on African football. Eric Chell's boys were amongst the biggest movers in the January 2026 FIFA ranking, rising 12 places after securing the bronze medal in the continental competition. Their previous highest ranking was in May 2010, when they were ranked 21st in the world. FIFA confirmed that Nigeria gained 79.09 ranking points, the highest point increase of any nation in the latest update, which underlines the impact of their African performances. Morocco, despite losing the finals to Senegal in extra time, climbed 3 places to 8th in the world, their highest ever position, and their first return to the top 10 since April 1998. Senegal's triumph saw them rise 7 places to 12th, also a national best. Morocco's rise into the top 10 came at the expense of Croatia, Belgium, and Germany, who all dropped places. Elsewhere in Africa, Cameroon and Nigeria recorded the joint biggest climb by ranking positions, each moving up 12 places, while Algeria rose to 28th, Egypt to 31st, and Ivory Coast to 37th. CAF now has 9 teams inside the world's top 50, 2 more than at the end of 2025. With our report on rankings, we draw the curtain on sport wrap up this morning, but we'll continue the show just after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Back post and nodded over by Diouf. Out for the corner it goes again. Diouf stays down. Oh, and this looks to be a nasty injury. A clash of heads. Attention is racing onto the park. Elenoy.
Oh, this is direct head-to-head. Ooh. Direct head-to-head. Oh. Really struck it. Oh, and the one taking it from behind, normally, this is the one that is hurt the most.
Well, the likes of Soufiane Amrabat and Romain Saiss, among those watching the replays, are anguished by what they've seen. It's a clash of heads.
The one taking it from behind, normally, this is the one that is hurt the most.
Well, the likes of Soufiane Amrabat and Romain Saiss, among those watching the replays, are anguished by what they've seen. It's a clash of heads, and again, nothing malicious. This is part of play. This is what can sometimes happen.
No, not malicious at all. He was going for the ball.
Clearly.
Clearly, and there was no way he could see him. No, not at all.
Two players simply going for the same ball.
Yeah.
Diouf with a clearance under pressure. Elenoy showing his courage in trying to reach that ball first. And this also sums up the physical intensity of this game.
We need both of them to stay on this game. Well, at least one seems to be looking okay.
Well, Diouf is sitting up.
Yeah,
Elenoy is still receiving a great deal of medical attention. And it seems as if we are going to have some changes. Elenoy, though, has played every minute of this tournament so far. He'd be among the last players to want to leave the pitch. Mendy, though, might have spotted something and comes over to discuss that very point with his coach, Joe. He's run 50 metres to have this discussion. Same ball.
In a final, so you can imagine the intensity.
Senegal, a side that are looking to continue their incredible run. This is their 18th match since the Africa Cup of Nations final in 2019. They've lost exactly none of their AFCON matches since going down to Algeria in the 2019 final. Morocco, though, are a side unbeaten for effectively 2 years in international football. This is their 27th match in succession in which they're hoping not to be defeated by their opponent. 2 draws and 24 victories in that time. Can they round out a win that would not only secure them another notch in that tremendous unbeaten run, but indeed perhaps the greatest glory for this golden generation. Well, the good news is Milanoe is sitting up. Man who's earning his 13th cap tonight, but it's his 7th appearance in this Africa Cup of Nations tournament Sunday. It means he's played over half of his international career in this tournament alone. Have to make a change, Morocco. Heavily bandaged is Neil Elenoe. But he is sitting up, and there will be head injury assessments done on the player. Certainly hope.
I hope for the young man that he can continue.
It's looking not quite as promising as he would like. The medical team just looking around, and there's still a little uncertainty. Senegal are going to be the first team to make the change, though, and the change that they're going to make is a very exciting one in Ibrahim Mbaye, who turns 18 next Saturday. He'll be making his way on shortly. Oh, he's blood through the bandage. And again, the medical attention required, the Roma man.
That is not looking too good, I must confess. Yep. He might need some stitches.
Again, just in the build-up to that, though, I mean, El Hadji Malik Diouf, who goes by El Hadji Malik Diouf, not to be confused with El Hadji Diouf.
Yeah.
He's the very first Senegalese player to be named African Men's Footballer of the Year, and who's in attendance, sitting in amongst some of the African legends, some European legends, some world legends, and indeed a couple of actors as well, Idris Elba and Omar Sy, with deep African roots. 2 very fine actors indeed.
Yeah.
Idris Elba in a host of roles over the years, and Omar Sy in one of the most watched foreign movies of all time. There's Ibrahim Mbaye. Now, this man's a star in the making. His coach knows it, so does his clubmate in Ashraf Hakimi, the opposition captain tonight, who has taken the young Mbaye under his wing. Now, this is a good sign in the sense that Elenoe is simply replacing his blood-stained jersey with another match jersey.
That means he's continuing.
And that sums up his will, his ambition, and it sums up this tournament as well. Among these players are some of the continent's wealthiest athletes.
This is the one that is hurt the most.
Well, the likes of Soufiane Amrabat and Romain Saïss, among those watching the replays, are anguished by what they've seen. It's a clash of heads.
The one taking it from behind, normally, this is the one that is hurt the most.
Well, the likes of Soufiane Amrabat and Romain Saïss, among those watching the replays, are anguished by what they've seen. It's a clash of heads, and again, nothing malicious. This is part of play. This is what can sometimes happen.
No, not malicious at all. He was going for the ball.
Clearly.
Clearly, and there was no way he could see him. No, not at all.
2 players simply going for the same ball.
Yeah.
Diouf with a clearance under pressure. Elenoe showing his courage in trying to reach that ball first. Now this also sums up the physical intensity of this game.
We need both of them to stay on this game. Well, at least one seems to be looking okay.
Well, Diouf is sitting up.
Yeah,
Illinois is still receiving a great deal of medical attention. And it seems as if we are going to have some changes. Illinois, though, has played every minute of this tournament so far. He'd be among the last players to want to leave the pitch. Mendy, though, might have spotted something and comes over to discuss that very point with his coach, Cho. He's run 50 meters to have this discussion. Same ball.
In the final, so you can imagine.
Senegal, a side that are looking to continue their incredible run. This is their 18th match since the Africa Cup of Nations final in 2019. They've lost exactly none of their AFCON matches since going down to Algeria in the 2019 final. Morocco, though, are a side unbeaten for effectively 2 years in international football. This is their 27th match in succession in which they're hoping
Good morning and welcome to Sports Central. We're returning once again, of course, on Spectrum Television to look at big details making rounds in the exciting world of sports. A whole lot has been talked about in the aftermath of the African Cup of Nations final involving Senegal and Morocco. We had that extensive conversation yesterday, so we won't do up much of that this particular morning. But the UEFA Champions League matches returns across different centers. English club sides, Spanish club sides, and other leagues as well. Club sides will be in action. We'll take a look at that this particular morning. We'll also look at the world of transfers. It is quite predominant because this is the transfer window and players are moving left, right and center. Yesterday, Manchester City unveiled one player. We're going to talk about him as well on this show. We'll also look at the world of tennis. The first Grand Slam of the year is currently up and running. Some players have already made their way through to the second round of the Australian Open. We'll take a look at that, so we'll also explain what to expect in the next round of the competition. Well, I'm Mutube David, and I'm so delighted to return once again on your screens. We'll talk about all of these sports stories and much more. Earlier, you saw Mfono Bongitina, so I'll be doing that with him this morning. Good morning to you, Mfon. Delighted to be here.
Excited to be back looking at the exciting stories in the world of sport. Manchester City already gotten McGahey, and the talks are about trying to revitalize the title push. 7 points behind Arsenal. Let's see how they can bridge the gap between themselves and Arsenal.
And they actually revitalize the title push. Of course, the last 3 matches in the Premier League without any win. And that's some sort of a strange for a Pep Guardiola side right there. But let's quickly start off the conversation this morning from the Australian Open. It has to do with one man to talk about, maybe you call him the most successful player in the Australian Open history. We talk about Novak Djokovic. Well, the man delivered some fine performance yesterday in that win. Of course, also registering his 100th Australian Open win. It ended in a 6-3, 6-2, 6-2 victory over his opponent. To talk about Spain's Pedro Martinez in that particular series. The man, of course, is still looking forward to making it 25th Grand Slam title. And many are saying maybe that's the last push, that's the last motivation for the man Novak Djokovic. Maybe if he wins one this year, he could eventually call it quits on what many would term a very, very historic career. But at the moment, still pushing, still, of course, looking forward to a whole lot of competitions this year. And Novak Djokovic is in, particularly for the taking. Well, fun. At the start of the year, we had some total of the events that happened, but Adima Novak Djokovic didn't participate in any. It was just preparing for the Australian Open, and it is right here. Many would actually, of course, look at him as a title contender at this point, looking at the fact that Yannick Sinner and, of course, the likes of Carlos Alcaraz are doing quite well, respectively. But now Novak Djokovic, a win for him, further, of course, sets the momentum for the next game. Are you actually looking at him at a point where maybe you see an Novak Djokovic in the quarterfinals or the semifinals of this particular Grand Slam?
Well, I think it's going to be very, very exciting to see Novak Djokovic go all the way to the finals of this one, because first off, he started out the the opening ATP 250 tour event, 500 level tour event, and now it's at the first Grand Slam of the year. Last season, he was the most consistent, top 4 superstar. He reached all semi-finals of the Grand Slam. So I'm expecting the same thing this year. And this is just the first one, so he's very fresh. Yesterday, it was not just about Novak Djokovic winning, it was the manner in which he won. A very flawless performance. He barely didn't even lose any set in that particular game, to show you how good the man was. And it was exciting to see him blaze all the way into the second round. Now he's gotten his 100th Australian Open victory of his career. I think it shows how dominant this man has been. I think when his peers, the likes of Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Andy Murray have all retired, but he's still blazing strong. As you remember last season when he started picking the competitions he performs in, and a lot of people started saying maybe we're witnessing the end for the man. But here he is again this particular year, same thing, picking those competitions, because at 39 you cannot afford to go to an ATP 250 event. It will really take a toll on you. So for Novak Djokovic, I think he understands his body, and he's going to do enough just to get to these Grand Slams. And just like we've seen here, I think the biggest problem would be getting past the likes of Carlos Alcaraz, getting past the likes of Yannick Sinner. But I expect Novak Djokovic to use experience to his favor, and maybe maybe just one of them could get the better of one of them, and hopefully we get an upset in this particular competition.
Well, we hear Novak Djokovic will face an Italian qualifier. Talk about Francisco Mastrelli in the next round, which is the second round of this particular competition. Well, still talking about, of course, the Australian Open this morning. There are conversations surrounding the likes of Ben Shelton, the United States international left-handed player. He was also part of it. Of course, the man got back to business in style just yesterday, defeating Hugo Humbert 6-3, 7-6, 6-5 inside the Rod Laver Arena to add another win to his impressive record at the hard court major in Melbourne in a battle of two lefties. Well, we'll take a very short pause right here. When we return, we'll definitely look at conversations surrounding Ben Shelton and what to expect even further in the exciting world of sports. Welcome back to the Still Sports Central. Of course, so we're still talking about the Australian Open, the very first Grand Slam of the year. Well, before that short break, we're looking at, yes, Ben Shelton, man getting back to business, a semi-finalist in 2025 of the Aussie Open. Of course, getting past Hugo Humbert, 6-3, 7-6, 7-6 inside the Rod Laver Arena to add to another win, and many would say an impressive record at hard-court major in Melbourne. It was a battle of two left-handed players because the man Hugo Humbert is also a left-handed player, and of course Ben Shelton the same as well. So battle of two left-handed players yesterday, but it was Ben Shelton who ran riot of the man. Talk about Hugo Humbert in that particular game. Well, I do not know whether Ben Shelton is still a youngster at the moment, but like it or leave it, he's still the last couple of years been able to break into the top 10, especially in the ATP category. And the man, of course, at the moment is also looking forward to be maybe a big name or the biggest name in the ATP category, as it has to do with the United States of American contingent. For a good start for the man Ben Shelton in here.
Well, I think this is a competition where he's had quite a level of success. Last year reached the semi-finals of it, so he's looking forward to doing the same thing as well. So getting the better of Hugo Humbert, I'll say it's a step in the right direction for Ben Shelton. Now currently in the top 10 in the ATP category, so he's going to be hoping to continue that at least for the first quarter of the year and see how we can continue to push and maybe even get to the top 5 as well. So for Ben Shelton, it's always going to be that case of how close can you get, because it's one thing to get to the semi-final. It's one thing to outdo the likes of Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, and I think Ben Shelton is going to be dreaming of that this particular year. But even if he doesn't get it, I think it's going to be a good competition for him if he gets as close as the semi-finals like he did last year. It's all about trying to rack up those points in the Grand Slams and seeing how he can get as close as possible to the final. And Ben Shelton, this particular win gets him closer to what he's looking for. So congratulations to him. Let's see what he does in the second round.
Let's see what he does in the second round will be the conversation. Away from that, other players also played. Sebastian Baez defeated Giovanni Becci Perica 6-4, 6-4, 5-7 in that particular game. It was, of course, an intense game that spanned through, of course, 5-set battle. But the man, soar himself, of course, getting the better of the man Becci Perica in that particular one. Congratulations to him. We also had other games that happened. The man Musetti advanced as well to the second round of this particular competition after his opponents retired. And I'm talking about Cullinan retired from the match. The man has advanced to the second round. But let's quickly head straight to the WTA scene and look at conversations over there. The defending champion of the Australian Open, Madison Keys. Well, the lady overcame a nervous start to her title defense, rather, to get through to the next stage. She actually, of course, had a victory over Grand Slam debutant Alexandra Olinkova in that particular game, and she's also looking forward to defend the title she won at this time last year. Well, more attention, of course, we'll be looking at the lady, rather, Madison Keys, because prior to her crown last year, the lady Arina Zabalenka won it back-to-back twice before she was actually looking forward to the third one until the lady Madison Keys happened. And now many will be looking at whether or not, of course, Madison Keys can actually defend this particular title, just like we saw in time past. Zabalenka did it. Yeah. Many more, of course, games to expect. But against a debutant, many won't really, of course, read more meaning to the very fact that she was able to get this particular win. But more the difficult matches to come for the lady Madison Keys. Can she actually go as far as possible in this competition and probably defend the title?
Well, I would say it's going to be quite difficult for Madison Keys if you're judging from the first ATP Tour level competitions, WTA rather, we've seen this year at Adelaide and you know, the one that happened in Hobart. So looking at it, I think Madison Keys has been quite nervy, even against the debutants. Yeah, she complained that she didn't have, you know, lots of footages of her opponent, so she didn't know what to expect of her when she went onto that court. So maybe it could also be one of the factors that led in this match being so close, especially in the first set. That first set ended 7-6. That to show you how closely contested it was. So for Madison Keys, it's all going to be about calming her nerves. She's a defending champion of this. There's no need to be worried. You know, just get out of the way and maybe try to reach the semi-finals, try to reach the finals. I would say her biggest competitors would be the likes of Arina Zabalenka. Iga Swiatek, of course, is also here, but she's not that Iga Swiatek we know 2-3 years ago. So her biggest competition would be likes of Arina Zabalenka, Korikokov, huffing and puffing here and there, so we can't really tell. So she just has to keep her nerves calm and get one step at a time. You know, from the first round, now she's into the second round. Let's see what lies for her, if she can also keep herself quite composed and get all the way to the finish line.
Well, of course, we're looking forward to this particular one. Madison Keys, many are expecting her to do better. And as a matter of fact, maybe defend the title she won last year. But at the moment, many would say it has to do with one step, taking one step at a time. But away from that, other players also had games this particular morning. Former finalists talk about Elena Rybakina is also through to the second round of the Australian Open yesterday. Of course, she defeated Kaja Juvan, the world number 100. She actually put up an inspired fight, but Rybakina proved too solid for her, winning 6-4, 6-3 in a game that spanned through 1 hour and 12 minutes at the Margaret Court Arena. So now the lady Rybakina is looking forward to, you know, playing in the next round, which is the second round of the Australian Open competition. Well, we'll look forward to all of these games. The likes of Valentova, the stunned number 30, joined in Melbourne, while we also had Jen upsetting number 22, Leila Fernandez, in this particular category. But let's quickly head straight now to the world of basketball and look at conversations that happened in the early hours of this morning. The Golden State Warriors, courtesy of the star Jimmy Butler, of course, there have been conversations about Jimmy Butler. The man, of course, went down with right knee injury in that win over the Miami Heat. And to a large extent, a big blow now for the Golden State Warriors, who, to a large extent, will definitely need their top players to keep some level of momentum and consistency. And now I'm going to be looking forward to what happens without the service of their top player, and that's Jimmy Butler. Can they actually cope without their star man?
Well, I think that's going to be the biggest question. And for the Warriors, they've won 12 out of the last 16 games with Jimmy Butler. That's to show you how consistent the man has been. That's to show you how pivotal he's been to their resurgence in form. At the start of the season, the Warriors were a little bit here, a little bit there, trying to see how they could win more games. But with Jimmy Butler trying to score bulk of the points for them, they've been back on a winning track. But now this injury, and it's an ACL injury, so going to be for a long time. So I think it's going to be time for the Warriors to get into the match. It's currently the NBA trade season already, so we're seeing trade deals here and there. So I just looking forward to see who the Warriors will draft in, because right now, for me, I think Jimmy Butler is out for the rest of the season. Might be back maybe for the playoffs or all of that, but I think he's out for the regular season. So the Warriors definitely have to look somewhere. Need to bring someone who can, shore up the attack for the likes of Steph Curry as well, and see how they can propel themselves into getting to the playoffs.
Well, of course, we're looking forward to all of these games as well. The other side also had a game to play this morning. Tyrese Maxey scored 29 points for the 76ers. As the 76ers, of course, won over the Pacers. It was a game that ended 113 points for the Philadelphia 76ers and 104 points for the Indiana Pacers. Pascal Siakam had 24 points. It wasn't just enough. The likes of Andrew Nembhard had 25 points. But if you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, it was, of course, the likes of Joel Embiid, who had 30 massive points. Tyrese Maxey had 29. Had about 5 players who had double figures for the side, all amassing 2 victory over the Indiana Pacers as well. The Indiana Pacers struggle still continues in front, and this to a large extent is very worrisome for the side. Well, they're still missing 1 player, and that's Tyrese Halliburton, and to a large extent, many would also say that could also be part of their worries so far. But Pascal Siakam scoring over 20 points, can't just do it alone for the side.
Exactly. I think for the Pacers at this point, we've talked about them quite time and time again now. They've been really poor this season. I think they've got just 10 wins, yes, this season. That's to show you how poor they've been. It's no when you compete against a team as good as the 76ers, especially a rejuvenated 76ers side who've got Joel Embiid back, Tyrese Maxey firing all cylinders. It's also going to be difficult for them to get that one over the line. But I think they gave a good account of themselves this morning, because it was a closely contested encounter, and the 76ers finally sneaked that one over the line. I would say for the Pacers, I said it, I think 3 weeks ago, the season is already done and dusted for them. I don't see how they can get themselves back into playoff sports at this point, because it's a long way off. It's all about seeing how they can end the season without being embarrassing and prepare for the next regular season.
Well, of course, still a long way off. More matches before the playoffs take center stage, and we'll, of course, look at all of these. Who makes it, who stays consistent, and who qualifies to the next phase. So we also had the Celtics, to a large extent, also having a game this particular morning. But before we talk about the Boston Celtics, Brooks and Booker powered the Suns to 126 win, a 26-point win over the struggling Brooklyn Nets, winning the game with 117 points. For the Pistons, it was a case of just 1 point separating them and their opponent in the early hours of this morning. I'm talking about the Celtics. Yes, it ended 104 points for the Pistons and 103 points for the Celtics in this particular game. But one would say maybe a one-off for the side. They've got more victories than losses. I'm talking about the Celtics this season. 1 point separating both sides. Can they bounce back? Will be the next conversation. But we're going to talk about all of these when we see the Celtics in the next game play in the NBA. But we'll take another short breather, and when we return, football conversations we'll be looking out for. Do stay with us. Welcome back. It is your Sports Central, brought to you live, courtesy of Spectrum Television. Well, we're quite quickly looking at the world of football now, starting off with, yes, the latest FIFA rankings, the first of the year 2026. It has to do with the Super Eagles of Nigeria, where we hear that the Super Eagles of Nigeria have climbed to 26th in the latest FIFA Men's World Ranking, their highest position in 16 years, following a strong showing at the recently concluded 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, where they lost just a game, and that game was the semi-final game against Morocco. Well, of course, I do not know how many will actually react to this, but due to the very fact that the Super Eagles of Nigeria have done better, and the latest FIFA window, which is the Africa Cup of Nations, they were able to get through to that particular spot. Their previous highest ranking was in May 2010, where they made it to 21st in the world. But at the moment, they're just some spots below number 21. They played 7 matches during the ranking window, recording 6 wins and just 1 defeat. Many would also say that's quite a good one. If you also look at the points, they have 79.09 ranking points, the highest points increase of any nation in the latest update as we have it from FIFA. Morocco, despite losing to the final to Senegal in extra time, climbed 3 places to number 8 in the world, their highest ever position and their first return to the top 10 since April 1998. Elsewhere in Africa, Cameroon and Nigeria recorded the joint biggest climb by ranking positions, each moving to 12 places, while Algeria rose to 28th, Egypt to 31st, and Cote d'Ivoire to 37th. So that's what it is at the moment. On fun, a good, of course, showing at the Africa Cup of Nations, despite that particular defeat at the semi-final stage, and that has culminated to Nigeria, of course, going higher in the rankings to number 26.
I think it's a reward of, what's been a good performance from the Super Eagles in recent times. We've seen them doing quite well. It's not just about this year's African. It's also, a cumulative issue from last year's African as well, where they finished second. Now this year they finished third as well. So it's all encompassing now, putting in place what they've been able to do for themselves. It's been, you'd have to go as far back as maybe early last year to see when the Super Eagles last lost the game. So it's quite good for them, and it shows that the AFCON is now a serious, tournament when it comes to world football. Because at the time, you could win the AFCON and still nothing would happen. I still remember 2013, Nigeria won the AFCON, but still we're not able to push up in the world ranking. So there's always that case now. But now we see that the AFCON is enough to push you into the top 10 in the world. Morocco are currently 8th in the world. Senegal, after winning that, they're now at 12th in the world. So it shows that the AFCON is a big tournament, and maybe other nations and the English Premier League now, if we have AFCON, they'll start respecting the tournament more, because we're always having that issue of the AFCON is not a big tournament, the AFCON is not this, it's not that. But now, I think, after seeing how the movement has been, I think it's been very, very huge. Teams like Nigeria moving 12 places, teams like Cameroon as well, 12 places. So when such a thing happens, it shows the importance of the competition itself.
Well, of course, the importance of the competition itself. We're looking forward to what happens. Yes, particularly in the next ranking. We hear the next ranking will be released sometime in April. And of course, during then, we'll also have matches, maybe friendly matches for the Super Eagles, because no consequential games or official matches they have to play anymore at the moment. Well, there have been speculations in the media space about the Confederation of African Football suspending Senegal head coach Pape Thiaw. Well, according to reports, of course, this particular morning, we hear that CAF has still yet to suspend Senegal coach Pape Thiaw in that particular series. As that yesterday we heard that investigations are currently ongoing about the chaotic moments we saw in the Africa Cup of Nations final between Senegal and Morocco. Here's a twist to the story. Many are saying if you want to suspend, or of course maybe sanction the Senegalese national team and the coach at the side, you also have to do some to the Moroccans, because they also had some chaotic moments where they actually were struggling. They were struggling towards, with the second goalkeeper of the Senegalese national team, and to a large extent, that was also, of course, flouting the orders of football authorities, FIFA and CAF, as a matter of fact. But yet, we're still yet to hear from CAF regarding whatever sanctions it will actually met on the players and the national teams that were involved in the final of the Africa Cup of Nations.
Well, I think CAF is wise enough to know that whatever happens with the Senegalese national team, there will be a lot of rancor, a lot of backlash. So they're going to take their time. I don't expect them to just start throwing away sanctions to the Senegalese team and maybe the Senegalese coach, because they understand that this year's AFCON was marred with a lot of inconsistencies, especially when it comes to disciplinary issues. We saw what happened in the Cameroon game, saw what happened in the Nigerian game, and up to the Senegalese game. So there's always going to be that issue of what are you doing in this other side? If you want to punish this side, you have to punish this side as well, just like you've said. So I think CAF is going to take its time, proper investigation into everything that's happened in this particular year's AFCON. And then remember, we'll just have that, it's going to be a wide sanction maybe to every team who deserves to be punished at this year's AFCON.
We're looking forward to see and hear from the Confederation of African Football regarding suspension, and maybe try to make a huge statement regarding what happened just at the finals. So all through the entire duration of the Africa Cup of Nations, well, Nigeria, we here are set to arrive, yes, the country today, Tuesday, after they won the bronze medal in the recently concluded African Cup of Nations, where most players have already departed to their respective football clubs. The likes of Victor Osimhen already with Galatasaray training ahead of a Champions League clash. Ako Adams, as at yesterday, had a brace for his club side, and that's Sevilla, coming off the bench. As a matter of fact, Paulo Nocho returning. So some players that are yet to return to their respective clubs will be arriving the shores of a country alongside the national team coach and the technical crew. That's the confirmation we're getting at the moment. But let's move away from CAF now and look at European-based conversation, starting off with Brighton. It was a Premier League game yesterday, Monday night Premier League football. Brighton, of course, played a 1-1 draw with Bournemouth. It was Brighton Costolas that scored a bicycle kick to salvage that 1-1 draw with Bournemouth at the Amex Stadium. Well, of course, not a result that many wanted, but to a large extent, they had to settle for a draw with both sides sharing the spoils. Gabriel Jesus, the Arsenal striker, said that his wish at the moment is to stay at Arsenal after an injury-hit spell in North London. Well, there are conversations now about the reliance on the man Gabriel Jesus, especially after Mikel Arteta signed Victor Gyökeres just during the summer ahead of the start of the new Premier League season. And now with Kai Havertz, of course, nearing full fitness, it will be three options now in that particular number 9 position. Well, we hear Gabriel Jesus said he wants to stay at Arsenal beyond his current contracts. We hear that he has about a few months left in his current contracts, and he says he wants to stay. But now if you look at the level of competition, it still looks like he is behind the pecking order. Yeah, many would also say Victor Gyökeres has not been adding up the numbers in terms of goals, so there should be struggles for position and shed. But if you look at the injury worries on Gabriel Jesus, one would actually not really, of course, entrust that number 9 position into his hands, looking at the very fact that he barely stays consistent. And he says he wants to stay at Arsenal beyond his current contract. Is it ideal enough for the man to stay, owing to the fact that this is a World Cup year? I mean, every single player wants to play in the World Cup.
Well, I think for Gabriel Jesus, his first point of concern should be about staying fit. It's not just about starting games. You can just get thrown back into the fire and you pick another injury. What happens? You miss out the World Cup entirely. So it's just about staying fit, manage your minutes. So there's no need of rushing away now. You can still go to another team and you're still going to be brought off the bench because they're going to be seeing you as a player who's just coming back from a very serious injury. He stayed out almost 1 year. That's a very serious injury. So any club he goes to, I doubt he's just going to be starting as the number 9, starting number 9. So it's just going to be about easing him slowly back into the game. So there's no need leaving Arsenal, where they currently have a structure, they have a system which is working for them, and they're almost about to challenge for the Premier League now. So which is something they've not done in quite a long time. So I would say for Gabriel Jesus, is the right decision for him to stay put at Arsenal. Maybe we've seen Victor Gyökeres struggling for form. In the last few matches, Gabriel Jesus has been called off the bench, 70th minute, 80th minute, so that's enough time for him to also prove himself. I would say it's not bad for him to stay put at Arsenal.
Well, his current contract expires next year, that's 2027. And the man says, I want to stay beyond that particular year. We've got to look at all of that and what happens next. Maybe could also be offered a new contract this particular season. But let's also talk more about transfers now. It has to do with Mark Gay, the Manchester City player. The man has officially sealed his transfer from Crystal Palace to Manchester City. City announced he's signing from Crystal Palace just yesterday. He moves for an initial fee of 20 million euros plus add-ons. We hear that could, of course, rise to 27 million euros. The 25-year-old has signed a 5.5-year contract, which will keep him at the Etihad Stadium until 2031. He's actually earning more than, of course, double of what he earned Crystal Palace. And that's a big move for the man, Mark Gay.
Very huge move. I think it's also a very big step from Manchester City, because a player who is, I still remember Liverpool were even contemplating paying 20 million, you know, just at the start of the season, when the summer. And he had, I think, more than 6 months now then, and now he has just less than 6 months to the career. Manchester City is paying 30 million in add-ons, because it's 20 million, you know, fixed fee. With the add-ons, you could get to 30 million. That's a huge amount for a player who has less than 6 months of his career. If it was Manchester United, Liverpool, or Arsenal, or Chelsea, I think a lot of scrutiny would have been put into this deal. But Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, they always have a way of doing things like this, and it would go under the radar. You don't pay 20 million and 30 million for a player who has just less than 6 months into his career and is almost 30 years of age, and then you're paying him over £300,000 a week in wages. That's very huge. I just hope he comes good for Manchester City, or else it's going to be one of those other failed transfers at Manchester City.
Well, we hear that Chelsea hold transfer talks with Rennes to sign Jeremy Jacques. Claudio Chavari leaves Manchester City to join sister club side, and that's Girona on loan in Spain. While Callum Wilson, says he's set to stay at West Ham despite exit talks. Juventus are looking at Jean-Philippe Mateta of Crystal Palace to be their striker this particular summer. The Champions League actions football returns across different centres. Ajax will take on Villarreal, Tottenham Hotspur will take on Borussia Dortmund, Manchester City against Bordeaux and Glimt. But just before we bounce off, Inter Milan takes on Arsenal, and Arsenal have been struggling their last few games. Many would say it is a different competition. But should Mikel Arteta be worried about this fixture?
Well, I think it's going to be a very, very serious issue now, because their next match in the Premier League is against Manchester United. It's going to be torn between which one do I prioritize at this point. You put all your players in against Inter Milan, they get to have fatigue, and also injury could set in. And then your next match is against Manchester United, who seem to be back in form with Michael Carrick. So it's a very huge match. I think it's going to, you know, give us an insight of what to expect later in the Premier League. But in the Champions League, I would say Arsenal, for me, they've been doing quite well. Inter Milan not so well, but still a good side. It's going to be a tough match. And maybe who wanted more would get it at the end of 90.
Well, Thomas Frank has been under intense pressure to deliver. His Tottenham Hotspur side will take in Borussia Dortmund today. If they lose, never know the decision the club's hierarchy would take. But we'll draw the curtains here on today's edition of Sports Central. Thank you very much for joining. We'll return tomorrow too, of course, extra these games that is scheduled to go down later this time. Thank you very much for fun.
A pleasure as always.
Well, keep it locked right here until we come your way again tomorrow, same time on the station. Have a fabulous day. Bye for now.